The scene is set. Fucking, we need like an ocarina. Or like, Matt, you could probably shred a harmonica. I'm gonna need you to start working on that. I need you to be, by next episode, I need you to be John Popper, okay?
Well, you didn't know I was harmonica state champion in 1999.
I knew it. I had a gut feeling. Nah,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't like to tell people about that story. It was a tough victory. It was a tough year.
It's a tough year.
I've seen his
I've seen the depth of a harmonica contest.
Same year I slaughtered a cow on my own. Yeah.
Oh, God. Golly. All right, let's kick it off. Welcome, one, and welcome all to the Headbangers Ball. You remember Headbangers Ball, Matt?
Dude, fuck yeah. I used to watch that every night. Even when I was little, I'd stay up late. I remember staying up one Saturday to watch, what band was it? I don't know. I was waiting for them to play a music video, and they finally did, but before they played the video, whoever was hosting, I think it was Metallica, honestly, but they made fun of the band. They're like, yep, here's so-and-so's video. Have fun. It's like, oh. And the video was long. So I was like, all right, I guess they were right. I'll have to remember who the band was. I don't remember who the band was.
Yeah, let me know for sure. I don't know why, but that's just where my brain went for that intro. This ain't Headbangers Ball, though. This is Whatchu Spinnin, episode 85. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake. How we doing, fellas?
Doing good.
Doing awesome.
Yeah,
rock on.
Good weekend. Got some good football games on right now, actually. The Eagles, Commanders are playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to lay on another good game.
Yeah. My brother-in-law is a huge Eagles fan, and so him and my sister have been blowing me up about that game.
Yeah.
So
That game's been intense already.
Right. And I'm like, I don't know.
Madden-like runs on there. Saquon Barkley burning people. It was great, man. Cool.
I know. That was right before I closed the door to the office. I was watching that play. I was like, oh, shit. All right. Well, I'll definitely be coming back to watch the end of this game.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Anybody do anything cool lately?
Just living, man. Just living and working. Not much. Just listening to new stuff, you know.
Yeah.
New music. That's about it. I haven't really been doing a whole lot. What about you, Jake?
I took a long ass walk the other day, like in the middle of the night, and it was, I don't know why I did it. I just kind of needed to get out and walk, and I walked for like an hour. And I was freezing my ass off, and it was cold as fuck. It's like -20 some days here in Bend. That night it was cold as fuck, but I was like just listening to music and just walking, and it was kind of strange. But I was walking, I listening to For Emma, Bonnie Bear. I don't know why. It was like perfect setting. But yeah, besides that, not much. Just been hanging around, chilling.
Did you have like a knife on you or anything when you're doing that walk, or you just?
No, it was, dude. It was like
I read and I watched too many YouTube videos about missing people, man. I'm just like, fuck, dude, that sounds like a story.
I was like,
be careful.
At
dog.
points, I was like sketched out, and I was like, cool. But it was like the main street. It was fine. Okay. There was a bunch of cars. Yeah, I wasn't just out in the woods or anything. That'd be weird.
I dropped some acid, just started walking, man. I didn't know. The wind was calling.
Let the wind take me.
Yeah.
Saw Jim Morrison clouds. Yeah.
He spoke to me. Well, that being said, have y'all been listening to anything new or cool lately?
I kind of went on a little kick with the genre for the album that I'm bringing up. So I kind of dove back into some of the bands from that era, like New Order, Tears for Fears. Kind of dove into some of their albums.
Nice.
Get a little nostalgic. And like I told you, I brought up Tyler to a couple coworkers, the Tyler Childress album.
Mm-hmm.
I went revisited that album. It's so good. All those songs of the album. And it's a live album. I kept forgetting that was live. I'm like, this is so well done. So revisited that a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
Rock on. Hell yeah.
I've been really into like live concerts, just watching like a recap on YouTube or something of a live show, or even Tiny Desk. Like I've been getting back into some Tiny Desk shows. So
Hell yeah. I went back down like the Melody Symphony, Karong Bin, and then subsequently like Peter Cat looped into that. I've been putting on that kind of like vibe of stuff a lot lately. Some Mac DeMarco's Home Shake shout out, a recent pick. Yeah. So nothing new per se, but like stuff I haven't listened to in a long time. Like I made steak dinner the other night, and it's a long-winded process. I have at some point I will tell you guys how to cook the perfect steak because I finally figured it the fuck out.
Ooh,
But
yes,
so like last weekend, I think last Sunday, I made that and just made like a. It ended up becoming like a. I just was adding songs to a queue, and it ended up being like 2 hours, and got some friends of that genre like the Duran Joneses and the like. So, but yeah, just kind of into that like vibey stuff. Been still jamming with those guys, and so I've been like listening to more like real instrument stuff and like more abstract out there kind of stuff. A lot of hers, a lot of like indie stuff that's like heavy reverb effects. That's what the kind of shit I've been into lately. So but yeah, other than that, nothing too crazy new. Yeah, I like legit for yeah, I feel like for the first time in a long time I don't have like a new something I'm super stoked on other than old shit. So
Have you guys
that's fine.
purchased any new
That's fine. It's always nice.
at all? Or are you looking to find anything? Is there anything on your wish list right now you've been looking for? I haven't bought new vinyl in so
No.
long. I'm just curious if you guys have like purchased any or like you're like, oh, I got to get this. Anything out there?
I bought one that just came in last week. That I bought like a month ago, and it took a while to ship just because it's like international. But I'm stoked. I've been listening to that. I'm gonna bring it up here at some point pretty soon.
Okay, so you're not gonna tell us.
But I have.
What is it?
Not gonna say.
Say-
But it's. I haven't been. I've been trying to find stuff like a record store here in Bend. There is some, like we went into one, but it was like pretty small, and they had just a lot of media, like a bunch of CDs and cassettes, but not a lot of records. But I'm still on the lookout for something local here, like a good shop to go to.
Nice. I haven't, because I just broached 200 in my collection like right before we recorded the last episode, and we're going up to Portland to see Deftones at the end of next month, and so I'm kind of holding off until then because we're gonna go hit like Music Millennium. I want to hit Everyday Music because there's some things that I think I've mentioned it a handful of times, but I literally had it in my hand at Everyday Music and put it back and got something else, but Sound and Color by Alabama Shakes. I don't know why Alabama Shakes.
Alabama.
Great like indie soul type stuff that I'm literally waiting until you will know when I got it because we will talk about it the next episode. Like it will be, I'm waiting until I get this album. It's one of my favorites from 2015. But yeah, I like had it in my hand, put it down, and grabbed something else when we all went and saw Peter Cat, and so I'm like, motherfuck, and it is never here locally because they repressed it a shit ton and then they just stopped doing it, and so there's like a stock out there right now, but you got to grab them. Yeah. What about you, Matt?
Like I haven't bought any vinyl in so long. I've been selling vinyl on eBay like a motherfucker, all my good stuff. But yeah, I haven't bought any. I've been trying to figure out if I wanted to go out and find something. But like you said, finding something at the local shops here, something that you really want that's on your wish list, is kind of rare that you'll find it there. So either having to go on Discogs or on eBay to find something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Just nothing out there right now that really like, oh, I got to get this. I got to get this on vinyl. Nothing right now. When I see it, I'll know.
Exactly. When I see it, I'll know. It's like I always have like a running list of at least like 5 albums I'm looking for whenever I go into a shop. And other than that, I let stuff kind of like jump out to me and be like, oh, I haven't heard this in a while. That's how I ended up getting a handful of like an actually good amount. But yeah, it's like not to say that the local shops have bad selection, but
Not
I'm
at all.
like, for me personally, I'm like, I feel like I've tapped the resources. I'm like, I'll give you guys, I got to give it like time to cool off or something, you know, be like, all right, I kind of drained the well dry here. And because it used to be, oh, it'll be here next time, and it's like that's not the case really anymore. So if I do see something like you said, Matt, if I see it, I grab, you know.
It's hard to find too. Like I remember when I used to shop for records back in the early, like mid 2000s, like 2012, 2013. Like I could find things that were either hard to find, not necessarily new, that were like older stuff. But now you go into a record store and it's all new stuff. It's all repressed stuff. There's hardly anything vintage in there unless you go to like Music Millennium or like a bigger shop like that. It's hard to find those titles that we like or that we're searching for. It's unfortunate. I mean, I'm glad people are getting back into collecting vinyl, but we don't want anything new. We're looking for other stuff, you know. Get your hip hop collection in order. Like there's a lot of other artists out there. You go into the local shops here, and the hip hop is sad, you know. Sometimes I don't know. It's just my 2 cents. And I think it's like that for like when we went to Music Millennium. Upstairs, there's so many different areas for all the genres there. Like I wish we had more accessible things like that here in Eugene or even in Bend for you. Like it just sucks that there's not a lot of local shops like that. You know? We don't want the repressed stuff.
It just means we gotta dig the crates some more. We gotta go hunting, searching for them more.
Yeah. It's hard. Like it's hard. Like I was in I don't want to. Not that I think it matters, but I won't name the shop, but the way that they organize like their new arrivals, which is where you would find like that vintage stuff, is a fucking nightmare to go through, and so it completely turns you off from it. And then you go into another store and it's like, oh, that's much better. And while I appreciate that they keep the sealed stuff separate from like the opened shit, I appreciate that. It's like at some points, like I don't want to sift through. Like clearly someone came in and was a huge Chicago fan because I just flipped through 15 fucking Chicago records. Like, come on, put it in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like that type of shit. And there's probably reasons behind that, but if we're bitching for the sake of bitching, I'll gladly. But it makes it tough to try. Yeah, and it's like there's probably not anything good in it anyway. But
I think it's just the record store, whoever owns that shop. It's like us. We're all three unique individuals in how we like music and different artists. We would all shape our record store in a different way. And I think those owners probably only put shit out there that they think is like important. Like maybe that owner loves Chicago, or like I don't know what the reason is, but it's like they have a different outlook on what they think is important music as opposed to what other people think. And it's interesting to see that at different shops. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the 70s are over, buddy. Woodstock's ended. Yeah, let's go. They have other albums, you know. Yeah.
They have other albums. God damn it. Rock and roll high school. Fuck yeah. Alrighty. Well, any closing arguments on anything? Do we want to talk shout anything out?
The record store scene. We're
Hey, shout out.
We love them dearly. We just can't find what we're looking for, and it's not their fault. It's a tough business, you know. I understand that.
We're
it's
also
not
getting
easy.
Yeah, it's not like how it used to be, and we're also getting into some wonky shit. So it's not y'all's fault. It's not you, it's me.
All right.
It's not you, it's me. But what it is it's time to kick this bad boy off. It's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 85.
It's good.
Okay. Everybody, it's about that time to go into today's content for the much anticipated, highly anticipated episode 85 of Whatchu Spinnin'. We're talking about some pretty cool stuff. In this first one, I am more excited to talk about this one than I anticipated I would be. I I don't know why, but listening to this album this morning, I was like, I am stoked to fucking talk about this. So Matt, why don't you let the people know what we're talking about?
Yes. Before I start, like in the background, we got two great things: great players, and great albums. Got Haram, and of course MJ up in the corner there. Just want to point that out. All right. We're going back to 1989. This band is known for a lot of great albums. This album in particular is kind of a shifting point and kind of took them back to their roots, to that goth rock kind of, not depressive, but very low key, kind of somber music. It's The Cure's album Disintegration from 1989. Robert Smith, great guitar player, great vocalist, great lyricist. The whole band's great. And I've been a Cure fan forever. And I love this album. I love the title track. I could play that every day and just be okay. It's a sad song, but it's very uplifting in ways to me that I can't really explain, but it just makes my soul feel happy. And I love that song. And I love Robert Smith. He's, very open and honest with how he feels. And you can hear it in his songwriting on this album, on Disintegration, and throughout the album. There's so many good tracks. I think there's a cool run on the album, the 3-track run, going from Prayers for Rain, The Same Deep Water as You, and Disintegration. That whole run is just, it encapsulates the album so well, and I don't know if they could have done it any better. I love the way they structured each song on that album. So this has a lot of meaning to me. I've been listening to Cure for a long time. What do you guys think?
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Dorian.
Oh, okay. Well, Robert Smith saved everybody from the Mecha Streisand, as South Park documented way back in the day. Sorry, I know we made a joke about it last time, but still, I mean, it's rare when a show like mentions an album like as on the nose as they did in that episode, and it's such a throwaway piece in it, I feel like, but it is so fucking hilarious. But anyway, so shout out that off the jump. But Matt, you're exactly right. They structured this song, like the songs and the album as a whole, so perfectly. And for an album that's content is as dark and somber and sad, and the backstory matches that perfectly. Like Robert Smith was fucking going through a time when he was writing and recording this, and so was the band. People ended up leaving after this. But it's such an accessible, with that being said, it's such an accessible piece of work, and it's not like sometimes, a lot of sad music makes you sad. This is not the case with this. When I listen to Disintegration or Pornography or really anything that The Cure's done, it's like I'm not like sitting here crying at times, if it hits you at the right time, I'm sure. But overall, I'm like listening to Pictures of You, that song is sad as hell. And I'm like, it makes me want to I got up and started cleaning my house earlier, listening to Pictures of You. I was like, man, this makes me want to get up and move, And I think there's something really to be said about that. And shout out to Robert Smith and his broken brain, essentially, that was able to kind of wrap something so dark and, introspective in a pretty, easy to swallow package. Pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is my first actual official album that I've heard front to back of The Cure. I'd heard about them and listened to a couple of songs on the radio and stuff, which a couple of them are on this album. But it's good. It's good, and reading up on it and seeing the story going on, what they were going through. Some band members having alcohol addiction, other ones with drugs, psychedelics, stuff like that. Some things that, in a way you could be shrooms, cool, acid, whatever. But it was actually kind of crippling and hurtful in a way to them. And they kind of use that as their out. So you hear that throughout, what they're writing about. It's kind of down in a way, or it's kind of sad, heartfelt music. But it is really accessible. Songs like Lullaby, that are really accessible. Love Song, you still hear that on the radio. You'll hear that in the store or whatever. So this is also peak of The Cure. This is regarded as a better album that they've done, and commercially a success. And it kind of, reading up on it, it's crazy that they were like suffering from the amount of success they got, like suffering from success, like if that's even a thing. But it's because they didn't want, or they didn't ever envision that it'd become so big, so massive. And they're just playing these like huge shows in stadiums, and getting massive recognition, sold out shows, and they didn't want that. They didn't want the attention. So it was just like kind of cool putting it that yes, musicians, they are like held to a higher standard of idolized, or they're viewed in a certain light, but they're also still humans, and they have feelings just like us. And I connected with that a lot. I kind of have the same feeling in some ways. So great album. I really kind of made me appreciate a lot what they were doing.
It's interesting to see how intentional the album was put together. Like Robert Smith went into the studio wanting to create an album that was, depressing in a sense and sad, and, had the hits on it as well. And as you said, Jacob, there's so many bangers on this. Like, this is the album that has all those on it, whether it's Fascination Street, Pictures of You, Love Song, Lullaby. I mean, they're all there. And I know that he was depressed during the whole period of writing this album, and he took LSD to help with his depression, which I thought was odd, because
wild.
I never wanted to take that drug when you're down. You always want to take that drug when you're in a good mood, because if you take that drug going into it can make it a lot worse. So I've never done that. So it's interesting to read about that. I was like, all right, well, obviously it works for some people, and he came out of it and made one of the greatest albums of all time for that era and that genre. And I think a lot of people look at this album and, go to it for, inspiration. And, like you said, Dorian, Pictures of You makes you want to go, move around, stuff like that. I agree. It's a motivational song. I feel like it's about, maybe breaking up with somebody, but moving on essentially, and like finding yourself again. And I love that you took that and rolled with it. It didn't make you feel sad at all. Like, I'm going to go clean something.
Hell yeah. No, and the thing is I love that you brought that up, because I almost forgot about it, Matt, that this was intent. Like, this is the album that Robert Smith wanted to make and put out, right? Because they had, again, as you said, Jake, they strayed away from what they wanted to originally to be, which was not a stadium act. That was the exact opposite of what they wanted to be. And so you've got a guy who, The Cure, this is their 8th album also. So you look at their work up until this point, it's very clear that Robert Smith is like someone who has like, is a very emotional guy, has like gone through a lot of shit, and, is an insanely talented songwriter, guitarist, all those things that we pointed out. And, he realized that he had kind of strayed away from that. And he's like, let me go back to basics. And to have an album come out when you've been a band for 13 years plus at that point, and it sounds so fresh. Like, I was reading about this album today, and I was like, this is their first album. Like, it has to be. It sounds like one of those incredible late 80s debut albums that we've covered. And I'm like, oh shit, this was their 8th album. Like, oh my God. Like, it sounds so, like, they just had it. You almost kind of can tell that Robert Smith, for lack of a better term, like, fell in love with the game again, of making music. And again, the way that he pulled that off with like the darkness of the album, and like The Cure, they're very, very much associated with the early goth movement for very good reason. But yeah, to have that darkness with like this bright-ish sounding music, with like the layered synths and everything, and there's a lot of really badass production stuff. And it's like, to go back to the formula and have it be as successful as it was is pretty rare. And I'm just so stoked. I'm stoked that it's their 8th album. Like, that blows my mind.
It's like, it's so strange, because it feels very grand. Like, it feels cinematic. Like, you could, like, this would be in like Back to the Future or something. Like, it just feels like theatrical, the way that they're doing it, and like it builds up to the song, and it doesn't actually start singing until like the 3rd minute of a 12-minute song. Like, it's all very like choreographed and like well done what they were doing. So yeah, it makes sense that the creation of it, what they were doing, and the production, like, it was all very intentional. So yeah, it's kind of impressive that they still had that. That drive to still keep putting out music like this, and that they still have, like, they're on God knows what album right now. Like, they just, made one in 24 last year. So it's impressive that they're still kind of keeping that hunger going.
100%. I knew about The Cure throughout high school and even after high school, but until I saw that South Park episode, I never listened to this album. So props to South Park.
That's funny.
Yeah. Basically the same. I think I'd heard like Boys Don't Cry or something, and I was like, Disintegration, like what? And that was like my introduction to it as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like you hear like The Cure is one of those bands that like we'll go ahead and we'll touch on it a little bit more than that. The Cure is like one of those bands that kind of gets like shit on a lot, or like they're kind of like the goth, like anytime somebody starts making a joke about like, oh, the goth stereotype, I'm gonna cut my wrists and wear jinkos and listen to The Cure, like it's like one joke, second joke, listen to The Cure. Like they are so associated with it, and it's like you kind of don't get that without actually, like, if you ever were to question anybody who makes those jokes and be like, do you actually listen to them? Like, and a lot of them will be like, yeah, and they fucking rule. It's like, that's the point. Like they were so associated with something that was like such a massive part of American counterculture, that it's like even Joe Schmo, like the amount, like my mom, I went record shopping with my mom one time, like a year ago, and she was like, can you help me find something? I'm like, yeah, what do you want? She's like, I want like The Cure. And I was like, what the fuck, Mom? Like The Cure, like Robert Smith is for everybody. Like I've had even people older than my mother be like, yeah, I love The Cure, and listen to it. And then I'm like listening to Disintegration, you hear songs like fucking Lullaby, and it's like, the Spider-Man is coming. Like it's like, what is, how? Like,
yeah.
Which again is just like, you gotta fucking give credit where credit's due. The fact that The Cure has, I guess, touched that many aspects and that many people of different walks of life is truly something to behold.
Yeah, it's like sad boy music, and it like does it perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys liked it. One of my favorite albums of their catalog, and I think probably their best album, honestly. Has everything on it that you could want from this band, and it showcases their talent back to front. So,
is this
that being
one?
said, let's dive into the top. What you got?
I was just going to ask you: is this one? Have you managed to see The Cure live? I know that they.
Oh, I have not.
I have not.
I know they were going on tour again, and I think ticket prices were pretty outrageous. But
oh yeah,
that I wouldn't, slip my wrist to see them, even though that would be totally a Cure move.
Yeah, as in that vein as it would be. There was, I had one more. What is other than Pornography, is there another album that you would recommend? Because other than Disintegration and Pornography, the only two that I really know.
I go back to their earlier stuff, probably Wish. That's the album before this, from '92. Or I mean after this, in '92.
Okay,
that's a good one.
Heck yeah.
And you like Pornography is a good one, of course.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah, and then Faith, they're one of their debut albums.
Nice.
That's definitely more goth. You can definitely feel that. Okay, this is a goth vibe right here. All right. Listen to that album. Like, all right, now it makes sense. I get it.
Okay. Perfect. I've got that jotted down. But Matt, you kind of said it best. Let's go ahead and do some top threes, eh?
Let's do it. Honorable mention for me was Last Dance. I like that track. Lyricism's really good all the way around. Number 3, Prayers for Rain. Again, another epic song. Like you said, Jacob, some of these songs would be in a movie. Number 2, Close Down. I like how that song starts off and it takes a while for the lyrics to kick in. And then title track was my favorite for Disintegration.
Disintegration. Jake, do you want to go or do you want me to?
I can go. Honorable mention for me was Lullaby. That's where I was like, oh, I've heard this song before. I've heard it, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it was The Cure or on this album. So Lullaby, honorable mention. Number 3 was Fascination Street. Number 2 was Pictures of You. When I was like reading the lyrics of it, I was like, damn, this is deep, this is sad. But then I actually just hear the music and I'm like, oh, I could fucking do anything to this. And then Prayers for Rain. I really like that song. These 2 weeks that I've listened to it.
Hell yeah. Prayers for Rain was a good one. Honorable mentions for me, Plain Song. That was kind of one that you mentioned, Jake. It like the intro takes like a while to get into the song, and I thought that was kind of like a cool effect to have at the beginning of the album. And was kind of, I liked that as an introduction. Second one for me is Lullaby. I know I made a joke about the vocal in that. It is the only way you could have sang on that song, and it's got this like kind of creepy, kind of like almost bop to it. It's very well done. Number 3 for me was Last Dance. Matt, the lyricism on that, as you mentioned, great. Love that song. Number 2, Disintegration. That was one that I had to like go back, like that second half when he says like making it up behind my back again. I was like, I need to listen to that run again. That was very impressive. And the number 1 for me was Pictures of You. This morning I woke up earlier than I would on a normal work day, so that was great. But I was like, I'm gonna just get my day going, crack my energy drink, and I'm gonna start taking notes. And Pictures of You, like pre 6 a.m. hits a little different, and it was pretty fucking nice. I was like, I ended up listening to it twice. So shout out Pictures of You and shout out The Cure, man.
Hell yeah. Nice. Good picks, y'all.
Good picks and good album, Matt. That was, what was it, 89's? 1989's Disintegration by The Cure. Shout out Robert Smith. We'll be right back to dive into the next one from a couple years after and from a completely different area. We'll be right back. It's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 85. Static X. Oh, fuck.
Wayne Static, yeah.
Yeah, push it.
Yeah, you push it.
You push it. Yeah,
you push it.
I've been doing that as like a whenever like something awesome, you know, when something like, oh hell yeah, I'll just be like, yeah, you push it. like fucking threw a paper ball in the trash can, like, yeah, you push it. We went out to dinner like a month ago and I was pretty stoned. And the lady came and like dropped like a basket of bread and butter down, and instinctually I just went, yeah, you push it. And she was like, what? Like,
did she know what you were saying?
She's no.
Like, yes, that's rules.
It's just like, fuck yeah. Wisconsin death trip. No, but my girlfriend's like, dude, you freaked her out. I was like, I'm so excited.
That's funny.
I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah.
God. That just made my day.
Yeah. Just some waitress. It was a Saturday night, you know, she's like, fuck my life, whatever. And then some guy does a Wayne Static impression.
She goes and looks it up later on after her shift. Like, oh, I get it. And she becomes a Static X fan. Look, you did it. You did a good thing. It's okay.
There we go.
You did a good.
Spreading the love.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, with that anecdote aside, it's about time to move on to our next pick for today's content of Whatchu Spinnin', with my main man Jake's pick for this week. What you got, big man?
Yes. So my pick came out in 1994. It's Café Tacuba. Re. Emphasis on the re. It came out in 94. It's a rock band, a Latin rock band made out in Mexico. I believe it's Naucalpan. It's in Juarez, or no, it's in Jalisco. But yeah, it came out in 94. It's funny enough, it's got influence from The Cure album we just brought up, a couple other albums. I thought that was fucking a trip. But yeah, it's like I initially stumbled upon this through Angela, my girlfriend. When she was growing up, her family, her dad would always play this. and she kind of introduced me to it when we started dating, and I fell in love with the album. Like, it took me a little bit at first, but when I really dove into it, and I'm like, man, I need this. So yeah, it's like a fun album. It has a mixed variety of a bunch of different genres. You could tell they really just had fun in making this. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts about it? What did you guys think?
That's what I loved about it. All the different influences and the genres. There's one song on there that I was like, "Is this Ministry? Did my song change? What the hell's going on with this drum track?" I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is my song right here." And I love what they're doing. You know, I love his vocal. His voice is very unique, and he sounds great on every track. And just love the flow of the album. It jumps around so many times. You're not sure if you're listening to the same band, but you are. They slow it down at times. They speed it up, like that track I just brought up. So this is a fun listen for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy because you look at like how many tracks there are, and there's a ton. There's like 20 or whatever, but they spice it up like and keep it moving and change up the genre and the feel so often that it doesn't feel daunting. And it's only an hour. It's like an hour long. So it's like not that, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's like by the end of it, you're like, what the fuck was that? Like, and I love the vocal on it. It's incredible. The way that it sounds so much like other stuff, but it has so much of that like Latin influence in it, is awesome. And you know, you mentioned it, fucking El Borrego, incredible song. Very Ministry-esque. And it's funny to think that it starts off with something like El Aparato, and that's like, oh, this is it does the kind of misleading thing where an album will be like, hey, this is what you're in for, and it's like, no, actually every other song is going to be different, motherfucker, so strap in.
Yeah,
I was reading up on them too, and I guess it's considered like their white album. Like, they're known for this kind of music, so I want to dive into some other albums just to see what it sounds like, because this album is fucking impressive. I was like, how do you go from such different styles in each song? Like this, I'm listening to that song right now that you just brought up. I'm like, it sounds so different from the next track and the next track from that. So definitely gonna find some other albums of theirs to find and listen to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you guys like it. It's definitely out there, just on like the genre spectrum. It's just all over the place. Like, there's some punk songs, there's some rock songs, some metal. It's just very experimental. It's bounces all over the place, and even it has its Latin roots. Like, there's songs that sounds like bachata, and like songs that like sound merengue, like really lay down oldies feel. Like Madrugal, that song sounds like it's like oldies song. It's like very bachata. So yeah, it's cool how they like brought it to the forefront of, you know, like Latin rock, bringing all of that kind of into one thing, and it is what they're known for. This album is definitely, like, I guess, a jumping off point, and what their fans like recognize as like a staple album to go back to. But yeah, it's the track list, it almost looks daunting at first, because yeah, it is 20 songs, it is an hour long, but like it has songs for anyone and everyone. Like, if you I don't like slower songs, I like fast-paced songs, you will get that. Or, I like you know, slower songs that aren't too crazy. There's plenty of that. So they kind of just tied it in together for everyone to enjoy. So it's kind of like a good starting point. But if you like this, definitely go listen to some of their other albums. Sino is really good. Avalancha de Éxitos, that one is also pretty good. So they have a pretty solid discography. But yeah, it's this album in particular, it really caught my ear. So it's really good.
And it's kind of recognized as one of the best albums in this genre, let alone, like, and by genre I mean like Latin music as a whole, you know, so even all of its subgenres, it's like a modern day like magnum opus for an entire genre, which is crazy to think that a band that got its name from a tiny cafe restaurant, or something random like that, has an album. Like, to have, as much as I'm not a fan of the Beatles, to have something regarded as like your version of the White Album is fucking incredible. Like, that doesn't happen. And you listen to this, and the fact that, Jake, you're exactly right, there's something for everybody on this. I feel like all three of our top threes, honorable mentions, there's not going to be a lot of carryover, I have a feeling.
No.
Calling my shot now. Mark it, clip it. With that being said, it's like, oh yeah, this is considered. I can see why they would say that. I haven't, obviously, this is my introduction to them. I haven't listened to anything else. But to have that comparison is a lot of fucking pressure. Good thing the album's already done. But B is also like, that's a huge recognition. And I think I was reading, it's like, it's not, if there's ever a list that comes out of albums within this genre, it never breaks out of like the top 5. So, like, again, round of applause for that. That's bananas. That's crazy.
Yeah, I read somewhere, and I had no idea either it was that massive, but I read like on their page that Rolling Stone ranked them the number 1 out of like the top 10 rock Latin albums of all time. And then like they have like multiple different like listings and rankings. Like they had a like top 600 Latin American albums, and they were third. So like it's definitely like not only like just the whole world, but specifically like in Latin America, in Mexico, like it's a beloved album, which is cool because it's like it's different parts of the world, like different things, different material, and this is definitely one of them. This is definitely one of them that you can put up there with the likes of Los Bukis, with Juanes, with other albums that we've brought up. So it's cool that like we have that representation in music, and we have that like staple. So it also, I really draw a lot of love from that. That they kind of bring the history and the culture into their music, and their live music also. Like they have a Tiny Desk that they did a couple of years ago, that Flores is on here, Las Flores, and that's like one of our favorite songs, me and Angela's. So seeing that on that Tiny Desk concert, it was like, whoa, like yes, like I've been wanting this, I've been like after this. So yeah, it's kind of cool seeing like now a new upcoming band that I'm getting introduced to, kind of seeing it out in the real world, and how other people have love for it. So
Yeah, I was stoked to see that they had a Tiny Desk today. I was like, I might have to like use that as my way to get into other stuff of theirs, because this album is so interesting, because it's like, I don't know the subgenres within this type of music very well to like be able to identify it, but you can tell that they're taking stuff that is like mainstream American music, or just and adding their culture and their spin to it, and it makes for such a fun listen, like, because you never know what's around the corner. You could have something like El Borrego, but then you have something like Istapec, I think that's how you pronounce that one, or El Valle y El Salon, those like more loving songs that are kind of a good cross of, maybe something almost Cure adjacent with that, that Latin kind of spin on it. And that's like what made me keep coming back to it. That, and the fact that his vocal gets so weird and just out there at times, and I'm like, what is happening? I'm listening to this at work the other day. Like, that was when I first listened to it. I was like at my office, cranking away, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is happening? This is awesome. I was like, what the fuck, in the best way possible, because I was just, it felt like I was in a boxing match and I was getting my ass beat. Like, I was just constantly like, what the, okay, hell yeah, all right, we're rocking. Because I don't know if I was expecting like Mana or anything like that. I think I was expecting something a little closer to that, and I was sorely mistaken, and I'm so happy that I was, because this is incredible.
It's a great album. Yeah. Accessible to anything. Like there's so many different songs that sound so many different ways. Like Esa Noche, that's a good song for anybody that just likes, Latin music, just something calm and soothing. That'll get you right away. And then you can jump into other tracks on this album that are completely different. So I like the variety throughout this whole album. It's so good and so unique.
Yeah, super unique. They even have what song is that? El Tlatuani del Barrio. It's like it sounds very native. Like I think they're speaking like in a different dialect, like locally to that region, because it's definitely not Spanish. So it's like they're also bringing that in. They're bringing roots from that into it. Some of the lyrics and song titles also like Ixtepec, like that's that's Latin. That's so. Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything for everyone, and it's real accessible. So I'm glad you guys liked it. I'm glad I could bring it up. One of my new favorites that I've discovered this last year. So glad I had finally got it. I got it shipped from Chile like a month and a half ago, and it took like a month to get here. But came in nice and no dings, no nothing. I got it in my hands, so it was awesome. But yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it.
Hell yeah. I love when a turnaround time as aggressive as that is well worth the wait and you get a fucking once in a lifetime gem. This is definitely an album I would recommend anybody listen to if you're trying to get into that type of shit. And to be honest, you're probably not going to stumble upon it. So heed my word and listen to this motherfucker. Shall we, at that rate, shall we top three it, Jake? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, sure. Let's I mean, there's 20 songs, so you could really go anywhere with it, depending on what your style is.
Oh yeah.
My honorable mention, I really liked Madrugal. That reminded me a lot of like Buena Vista Social Club, like some of those like older, with Fered when he's like his vocals are very like old school melodic kind of oldies vibes, and it has that bachata in it too, which I really drew to because I'd hear a lot of that growing up. I hear a lot of bachata, so that's my honorable mention. Number 3 is Esa Noche. Like you said, Matt, it's a great intro to the album, kind of being one of the first songs that you hear, and the first half of the album. Really good laid back feel to it, that classic, Spanish guitar. Number 2, El Baile y el Salón. I really like that one, how it starts wrapping up the album, kind of finishing up, tying it in a bow. And then my favorite song, Las Flores. That was the first song I heard off of this album, really off of this group. And anytime I just put it on, it's just like happy. It's just makes me happy. Just cheers me up. Just brightens my day so much more. So yeah, Flores.
I listened to this album more or less every time I made dinner last week. Like this was my album that I had my earbuds in, made dinner. I don't know why, it just was always on. So it was very cool to do that, and it flowed really well. But honorable mention for me was Madrugal. Love that song. And Pez, that was another good one. Number 3, El Borrego. Number 2 is El, probably going to pronounce this wrong, Sicyon. And then my favorite was Tropico de Cancer. I feel like that song just takes me back and just makes me feel like I've heard that song before somewhere, that vibe or that guitar melody somewhere, and it just makes you feel at home. I love it. So it's my favorite track.
Hell yeah. I guess I was not exactly correct. There is some carryover, but that is what we're here for. Honorable mention for me was El Aparato. I love the like choir. It's not a choir. It's like group vocals like toward the end doing that. Hey, and they got like the claps. It's just very layered, like a lot of layer texture at that part of the song. Just really gets me going. Second one for me, El Metro. Just a funky ass song, man. And it was like Sonic Green World type of fucking vibe almost, like another one of those like just makes you want to get up and go, and I love shit like that. Number 3 for me was Esa Noche. Great song. We've talked about that one. Number 2, I mentioned it earlier. Ixtapec. Just don't know why. Kind of like a weird. It was like a noticeable kind of like mood change at about the midway point in the album. Number 1 for me, El Baile y El Salón. Just love that one. That one for some reason, don't know why. It was right, just hit me right in the gut, and I loved it. So those are my top 3s.
Nice. Glad you guys liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Thank you for bringing it up. Loving the Mexico and like, you know, the Latin kind of stuff. You know, I bought Buena Vista like right after we brought it up. And I still do access the playlist that you made for me like forever ago, the Spanish joints, and I've like made my sub. I stole that playlist and made one that I can add on to. So that's just great. I'll probably add some of this to that. But anyway, that was, what was it, 94? Yep. 1994's Re by Café Tacuba, which was Jake's pick for this week. We'll be right back to go backwards in time, give or take about, what is it? I don't know, fucking 8 years. I don't know. Math sucks. With my pick for this week, it's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 85. We'll be right back. Peace. All right. Well, we just did a vote, and it's about time to talk about a fucking classic when it comes to hip hop music. And for that, we got to bring up my pick for this week, which is an album from 1986, the debut album of hip hop group Beastie Boys, Licensed to Ill. It's 3 dudes rapping, producing, Rick Rubin on the behind the glass. Just an all-timer, a very fun, like, in a word, fun is what this album is. You know, we've talked about Disintegration. That's regarded as a classic also. Ray, great. That was a fun listen also. This one, again, it's the fun train around here. So with that, what do y'all think? What'd y'all think of it?
I was wondering when a Beastie Boy album was going to be brought up. I know we talked about another album on the hip hop bracket podcast, but this album, you know, debut, beautiful, Rick Rubin produced, one of the only Rick Rubin produced albums. Interesting to know that he left after this album for whatever reason. But this album has so many samples that NWA used a lot of on their first few albums. I didn't know about that until I heard this album again. I was like, that's where that sample came from. I've heard that before so many times. And I go back to that NWA track and play it and be like, so they were kind of collaborating together, which I thought was cool. I didn't know that. I thought each one was kind of doing their own thing. You know, you got West Coast here, East Coast there. And this is just a classic album. You got Fight Free, Right to Party. I remember that video when it was on MTV when I was younger, and it was just like, whoa, these guys are different and they're badass, and I like the lyrics, and it's accessible. It's white people rapping. It's cool. I don't know. They just did their own thing, and they made it sound well. They didn't just like, it wasn't just like a flash in the pan. It's like Beastie Boys are done. Like they did it throughout the 80s, throughout the 90s, and even beyond. And they were unique. They set the bar. There wasn't anybody else like them. I don't think there's any other group like the Beastie Boys. Like that's their own thing. They set the bar there, and nobody's gonna ever be like them. And this album, for being a debut, was amazing, just from start to finish. It's got so many classics on it. But yeah, kind of a childhood classic for me. I love this album. Good pick, Dorian. Good pick.
Yeah, it's almost like how did this happen? Like how did these guys find each other? Like it kind of feels like a social experiment. Like, oh, you know, hip hop's really big. What if we? But it's fucking, it's prime, dude. It's peak. Like this is what hip hop is about. Like just creating, you know, doing your own thing, experimenting with it. Because it's like this was not a thing that was happening in the 80s for hip hop. Like it was not. Like the hip hop back then, if you think about it, like you know, not Rick Ross, not Rick James, but Slick Rick, it's not like this. Like this is their own lane. They were making their own path with this, what they were doing. And Rick Rubin just fucking setting the standard also, like on a production standpoint. I thought it was fucking nuts that like a month before this he released Rain and Blood by Slayer. It's like, what the fuck? Like you go from like a pioneering band like Slayer for that album to release License to Ill like within the same 30-day window. Like, what are you doing? It's nuts. So yeah, it's like really crafty what they were doing. Yes, that is a joke for She's Crafty. That's also a good song. So it's
yeah, I like that.
I like how I tied that in. Yeah, I'm good. But yeah, man, it's solid. It's solid. That punk rock hip hop, if you want to call it. I like the use of the electric guitar that they have. Yeah, it's a staple in hip hop. It is for a reason.
Speaking of Slayer, Kerry King's got a solo in there with his guitar, so that was kind of cool, right? Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. It throws like all the different genres in there. You got the punk rock, you got the kind of the metal aspect, and you got the hip hop, New York, early '80s grungy kind of lo-fi sound. And the Beastie Boys are just so good at what they do on this album, and it showcases throughout their career that they knew what they were doing when this came out, and a lot of respect for everybody else around them.
And to have it's like you said, Matt, at the earlier about this is like this wasn't they weren't a one and done kind of act, this is another one of those cases where like my favorite Beastie Boys song technically isn't on this album, but it that I just happened to see. I was like, this is peak. Like you said, this is like a peak fucking album in this. Like this is monumental for hip hop as a whole. And so I did grab this one, but I was thinking about it today and I was like, it doesn't fucking matter what album I would have grabbed. They're all phenomenal. And like whenever you talk to people that are into Beastie Boys at all, they're gonna tell you that their favorite song comes off of this album or this one. It's not like unanimous. Like they made a career off of their whole career was just like, we're gonna put an album out and it's gonna be phenomenal. 2 of the songs off of it are gonna be 2 of our biggest songs ever. Like they had almost a guarantee. It's like every album they put out, there's gonna be at least 2 songs that are gonna be top of the fucking charts, and it was like they did it with this, they did it with Hello Nasty, Check Your Head. Like literally you go down the list, you're like, oh, I know 2 songs off that, I know at least 2. Like it's hilarious. I played that game with myself this morning. I was like, how far do I get before I don't know a song? I got basically all the way through. And yeah, I mean the production on it is incredible. Kerry King does the guitar solo on No Sleep Till Brooklyn, but also did the guitar part on Fight for Your Right. Again, those are the 2 biggest songs off of this album, and Kerry King was on them. I'm sure that had something to do with Rick Rubin literally just working with him, but also wonderful. I don't know if you get anybody better to kind of fit that mold. You think, oh, this album and its sound is so fun and upbeat. Why would you ever do something like that with Slayer? And it's like, oh, because Kerry King can actually shred, and probably a matter of convenience, if anything. But I think they knocked it out of the park with that random collaboration.
Yeah, it's also like hip hop as a whole at this point too was already like so iconic, like Run DMC, like Slick Rick, Public Enemy. You have groups like this and duos that it was a thing to have multiple groups in a hip hop collective. Run DMC did it, Public Enemy did it. A bunch of these guys, they were doing this. So Eric B. and Rakim, also another huge one, albums that we put up in the bracket. So they were also, in the same boat. Hey, let's do something different. Let's make a hip hop album. Let's have Rick Rubin produce it. Who knows how the hell it all came together. But it's like molasses. It's like it's solid. It's fundamental. It has probably their biggest songs on this album. Songs like Brass Monkey, you hear that everywhere. It's iconic. Like you can't sample that song. Like that song is by itself already just like, it has its plaques, its staples. Fight for Your Right, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, like the big, huge, massive songs that they were doing, and it kind of really made hip hop also accessible. It wasn't so just like a underground thing, like only people in East and West knew about it. Like no, it like broadened that. It was for everyone, and everyone was getting into it. I'm sure if you ask like most people on the street who, if they've heard of Beastie Boys, they'll tell you yes. I love License to Ill. I love Paul's Boutique. They know about it. So for it being a debut, like how much better can it get than this? Like realistically, how much better? Can't.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And it's it is fuck. I lost my point. Matt, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like I like the incorporation of some of the cool Led Zeppelin riffs that they use from Ryman and Steelum. They got When the Levee Breaks, the riff from that song. And then I think it's on She's Crafty or another song that they have a riff on there. I'm not sure which one it is though. But to be able to use like a classic rock riff and like put your hip hop spin on it, I don't know. It shows how talented they were, and they're just not trying to rap. They're trying to like make their own style, and they totally did it on this album to a T. It's brilliant.
Are you thinking of Slow Ride with Lowrider by War?
Yeah. No,
I was trying to think too.
There was two. I don't remember what the other one was though.
I'm trying to think too. I'll figure it out.
It is She's Crafty. It is. She's Crafty, and I forgot what song it is though. Yeah, I'll have to,
Gotcha. And it's one, like you said, the sampling on this is nuts. How many times have you heard that drop? And it's like, oh, this is where it came from. Like that's so fucking sick because that's something that will get used tomorrow. There's a producer in their bedroom right now who will use the drop tonight. Like it's just it's like, how every 15 seconds there's a car crash or something. Like every 36 hours some producer uses the drop sample. Like it's just as sure as the sun will rise. It's man, and to have it, and it almost sucks that Fight for Your Right and No Sleep Till Brooklyn are both on this album, because I feel like they overshadow, because I almost forget, oh yeah, Brass Monkey's on this too, and it's like, oh yeah, well guess what, there's better songs on it. Like they kind of overshadow, not to say that those songs are bad, I think they're phenomenal in their own right, but like Paul Revere, Girls, even, like there's some really fucking impressive stuff that almost gets overshadowed by the generational tracks that this album holds. And to have that be an issue really says something about an album and about how just they struck fucking gold. These three honks from fucking New York knocked it out of the park and managed to get, just on their debut, just managed to get Rick Rubin on it. And so it's like, all right, cool. Glad that you guys kicked him to the curb after this, because who knows what could have happened. But glad you at least got one out of him. And it's, look at us. We're fucking Matt, remember when you came over and I played this and I was like, I didn't realize this album came out in 86. Like that's bananas, because it was going up against all, like you said, Jake, the fucking Public Enemies, the Run DMCs, like hip hop, 80s hip hop has such a specific sound that this coming into that, it's like, it's crazy. It's like it's a true cock in the hen house, you know what I mean? Like it's while it does kind of fit that mold of what like late 80s hip hop was, it completely does not, because of like the rap rock aspect that it has to it. And rap rock nowadays is a genre that is completely out of hand. Calm the fuck down. This is it in its purest form. Yeah, this is like Colombian cocaine of fucking white man hip hop over here. Like it's just pure as hell.
I don't think it's like a tipping point, but I definitely think it's like a point in that era of hip hop where after this album it kind of went to that NWA gangster rap style, like immediately from 87 to 89, it just took off from there. So this is kind of that last like you said, the early 80s New York, LA hip hop vibe, where it's the you know, that kind of hip hop bracket, and it just
Mhm.
it spun off into that gangster rap, which isn't bad. It was kind of a weird
No.
transition to see that happen. You wonder why that happened. So it could have been what was going on in LA, all the, you know, the violence and things like that, or, you know, whatever that shift was. It definitely happened there. But this is such a good album.
Yeah. It is. I agree. That is kind of that last, like, hey, it's like the last bus. You know, it's like the last bus of the night. Like, if you want to get in a good 80s hip hop album, now's your chance, because it is not going to sound like this in 2 years. All right. Well, Beastie Boys, come on in. And then, as you said, it kind of was, you know, in the storyboard mountain of hip hop, it was kind of like right before that turning point where things drastically changed for the genre. But hell yeah. Do we have anything else, or shall we top three?
Let's dive.
Let's dive, baby. No diving here. This is a 3-foot pool.
Oh.
Break your neck. Honorable mention for me. This is one that was probably the first Beastie Boys song I ever heard, but the guitar riff in this hooked me to it again this past 2 weeks. So honorable mention for me, Fight for Your Right. Second one was Hold It Now, Hit It. Just really like that voice sample of hold it now. Like, the production on that track alone is really tight. Number 3 for me, Rhymin' and Stealin', Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Just oh my god, dude, the start of this album is incredible. Number 2 for me, honestly, I will never get tired of fucking Brass Monkey. That song kicks ass. Fucking, just the thing that we did that I don't think we mentioned is, like, their fucking way to just like hop from one to the other is really unmatched. Like, no one did it as good as them, and no one ever will. So don't try. But anyway, like, in Brass Monkey is very much a song like that, where they're all just like really passing the mic essentially. And then number 1 for me was the New Style. That beat switch toward the end, oh my god, where it gets the fucking sample is awesome. So yeah, New Style. Those are my top 3. License to Ill.
Nice.
Right on. Honorable mention, Fight for Your Right. Same thing. I always liked that song, and I always liked the guitar in it, but now knowing that it's the dude from Slayer, like, oh my god, that's fucking badass. And it lines up like perfectly, like, just a month before this, working with Slayer on that album. And then, hey, you want a completely opposite side of the road? You want to hop on a hip hop album?
Yeah,
fucking nuts. So Fight for Your Right, honorable mention. Number 3, I really like the New Style as well. The beat switch on that, also same thing. And it first kind of couple songs on the album. Number 2, She's Crafty. Like, also same thing, guitar layers on it. Like, you hear it a lot. I don't know if he was on other stuff or if they were just sampling at this point, but I hear it all throughout. And then favorite song, Brass Monkey. It's just like, there's no other song that sounds like it. Nothing else in hip hop or in music in general sounds like it. Like, that weird, like, car horn effect that they have. You hear that and you immediately know what it is. Yeah, it's my number 1 song.
Nice. Honorable mention for me would be Posse in Effect. Like that one, kind of old school 80s vibe. Number 3, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Probably one of my favorite tracks from the Beastie Boys. Number 2, Paul Revere. And then I like Rhymin' and Stealin' for my top track. It just set the tone, that riff from Led Zeppelin, and smooth sailing from there. Such a good album.
One of my favorite lines, and I hope I'm calling the song out, because Rhymin' and Stealin', it messes me up because they blend into each other so well. I think it's on the New Style when he says, October 31st, it is my date of birth. I got to the party, you know what I did? The Smurf. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Like, that is just, if I had to sum this album up in a line, that's it. Like, it's just kooky, it's out there, but holy shit, is it impactful. And that album being 1986's License to Ill by Beastie Boys, which is my pick for this wonderful episode 85 of Whatchu Spinnin'. We'll be right back to let y'all know what's coming in about 2 weeks' time. Stick around. Alrighty, it's about time to do our favorite part, which is let y'all know what's coming up on next episode of Whatchu Spinnin. That'll be episode 86. We go in the order that we spoke on today's episode, which means that Matt, you are up next. How are you going to follow up Disintegration? Let me know.
I'm gonna turn that frown upside down, put a little spin on the mood, a little bit more of a positive vibe. This album was made kind of during the pandemic with COVID and whatnot. It came out in 2021, and we talked about this band once before. Dorian brought up an album by them, but this is Crawler by Idols, and this is the album cover. Crawler by Idols. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yes. Here we go.
Nice. I like that band. I like them, so I'm excited to hear this one. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Crawler, Idols, good pick. Jake, what you got?
So my pick, I teased it a little bit beginning of this episode that I had just gotten something not too long ago. This has been on my list for a while, and I finally pulled the trigger. It came out in 1975. It is Cortex. I'm gonna butcher this. It's Tropel Bleu. It's got a lot of funny, fancy spelling on it. But yeah, 75, some like funky jazz.
Awesome. That looks exciting. Heck yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. I love an album cover that doesn't like tell you what it's gonna be, you know?
No.
Like that it could be anything.
I
know. And mine, I kind of mentioned this, I think, last episode. This is something that Matt like semi-introduced to the group a while back, and I kind of did let me buy that on vinyl and then listen to the album. So I'm going with I believe it's their debut, 1999's American Football, their self-titled album. American Football. Like it's considered like a pioneering album in emo/math rock. Some really fun
cool.
instrumentation stuff going on. Great album. But hell yeah, boys. That'll be fun. It'll be a fun ep.
Mm-hmm.
I almost brought up another classic in hip hop, but I'll save that for later. But in the meantime, next episode, we've got Crawler by Idols. And is Tropel Bleu the artist or the name of the album?
The name of the album. The artist is Cortex.
Okay, Tropel Bleu by Cortex. I had that flipped. And then American Football by American Football. We will see y'all in about 2 weeks' time. While we're away, go ahead and visit a local record store, no matter what we say about it. We love them still. But go ahead, support local artists. Pick up an instrument. Don't pick up an instrument. Make some good food. Stay warm. It's getting colder than dog shit out there. And go ahead and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and tell a friend about the show. We'll be right back. Peace out.